Hello, it's me, Pavlo. For many years you just heard my voice, but rarely had an opportunity to see me in person. And I decided to fix it at least partially, and I think I'll start adding some short introductions with me speaking. All that introductions that I've did before, but in more informal way. I really hope that it will help me to build better contact with you, my small but super appreciated audience, because I just working to make that. And today we'll be talking about enormously expensive, enormously huge packaged earphones. So you can see it now. It's oBravo Ra CQQ 21.5. If I googled correctly, their price is about £1,100. Of course, I haven't bought them. My friend Mikhaylo, big fan of oBravo, gave me them as a loan. Price, of course, is insane, but actually I've tested oBravo Cupid, for example, and they were really good for hybrids for that price. But here it's really interesting to understand where actually stop the price and start that premium edition here. So let's try to figure that out. So, as you can see, outer package box is super big and super premium. Actually, approximate size is a bit less than 2 iPads Pro, and this box screams of luxury, and also it screams to the custom officers. I have something expensive inside, and I'm really willing to pay like 400 euros of import taxes and duties. But there is some signature by the creators, metal label on top of this cardboard ring that holds this box, and I need to slide it super carefully. And inside there is a section where earpieces were, also 6.3mm adapter, and I have no idea how they were packaged out of the box. Also you're getting this typical accessory from the oBravo with cardboard and piece of rope. Also you're getting this first wooden box. So probably I need to Google some unboxing, because this one looks like there were also earpieces or maybe cable, I don't know. But what was here then? Also I don't know. And you're getting absolutely masterpiece, super polished, lacquered box with a lock. You press the button, you open it this way, and also here I'm getting earpieces. Actually, I'm not sure what the whole idea behind that, but here is their cable with replaceable connectors, and also in the set of tips you basically getting set of white tips and this set of gray tips. So unboxing experience, of course, superb. But to be honest, if it will be just this box in some cardboard package, I don't think we've lost really much here. Besides, of course, this pompous feeling of super big internal content. In terms of design, they are great. Of course, it's a combination of 3 premium materials: wooden faceplates, copper part of shell, and it's even PVD coated, so it won't be scratched that easily, and it won't develop that noble green color typical for the copper. And actually inner part and internal chamber made of ceramic, and as you can see, overall shape is pretty ergonomic. So they created for over the ear wearing, and definitely looks fresh compared to modern typical semi-custom like shells. Actually, spout is on the shorter side of things, but it's enough to provide good isolation. Moreover, this part also goes partially into your ear channel, providing slightly better sound isolation. There is a lip for holding the tips, but lip actually is not that big. It could be a bit bigger to provide a better hold of the tips. There is a small vent hole, but it's on the internal side, which is really good. So in general, you know, looks a bit over epic, but in general looks pretty practical. So let's get this tip back. Cable is made replaceable, and it's almost regular MMCX connector, with one exception. There is a notch and a small lip on the side. So let me carefully disconnect it, or actually probably I won't do that because it's not my pair of IEMs and I'll need to return them, but basically it's regular MMCX. And the cable is good. It's created especially for this model, of course. It's a combination of copper wires and silver plated copper. Of course, it's leads and it's in soft insulation, not super soft, but really on the softer side of things. They even didn't add some ear hooks, but in this case they are not necessary because the cable stays over your ear because of its softness. And here it goes to the splitter with chin slider, and after that goes braided down to this cable with replaceable connectors. And we've seen this schema before. You turn it, you disconnect it, you can change this connector, or actually we put it back and also lock it back. So pretty good, reliable schema, universal cable. I've seen noticed by Audio Concierge, who sold them, who is their official distributor, that there were gold and platinum versions. Probably they would have been even more expensive in plans, but I'm not sure did they do them or not. And also I've seen a nice black variation, but also I'm not sure is it some limited version or not. But even this, like most common version, looks great. Actually, there was older version of RA-CQ and 21.5 or 25.1, whatever. It's an upgraded version that is more recent. In general, in my opinion, looks pretty good. And of course about the sound. I didn't burn them in because they were burnt in by their respective owner. And the most important thing here is to find the proper tips that will provide you a good isolation and nice fit of this ceramic sphere. And inside we have 16mm dynamic driver and 8mm AMT driver. And of course I've seen some feedback that they are awful and so some like bad measurements, but to be honest, you know, I'm relying only on my subjective hearing, and I'm building impressions myself. So, and to my ears, it's a good example that frequency response doesn't tell you the whole thing. So, bass here is unusual. It has a noticeable bump in the middle bass area, but deeper layers of bass are noticeably rolled off. But actually deep bass is present here. It's not overwhelming, it's not dominating, but even listening something like the Prodigy, I'm getting that sense of really deep bass presence. At the same time, it's definitely not the model that will give you maximum enjoyment on the music that relies on deep synthesized bass, because you don't get like this skull shaking punch or impact. But when it comes to like something rich and saturated with nuances, they are great. They actually boosted the most important part of low frequencies that corresponds for the vast majority of instruments, starting with acoustic double bass and ending, I don't know, with some low notes of big brass instruments. And also bass here is pretty detailed. It's not like super focused on small nuances and details, it's still a dynamic driver, not balanced armature, but at the same time amount of small nuances it delivers are pretty nice. And actually this makes things like double bass and stuff like that sounds really natural. Also bass is pretty well controlled, transitioning to the mids pretty smoothly without shadowing effect, because that deeper layers of bass are restrained, and that means that less bass will dominating over mid frequencies. And first example, it's HD Tracks 2020 sample. What was a year, so peace and calmful. It's Chris Jones and the track is No Sanctuary here, and here present pretty accented bass, which is recorded really well with a lot of nuances, and these earphones deliver it, and also vocal part that goes to the upper bass area, and these earphones also deliver them pretty well. And second example, it's exactly double bass, recorded with good amount of nuances. It's Casey Abrams, Lost and Looking. And just where these earphones really deliver their full potential, because they show you that timbre-rich and saturated instrument. Mid frequencies are also pretty typical dynamic driver one. But good dynamic driver. Nice amount of details, but at the same time no attempts to dive into micro contrast and deliver every single nuance. These earphones are still super critical for the quality of record and source, but not because of mid frequencies. Really good weight distribution and pretty nice dynamics that gives you good emotions. But to show the full potential you still need best tracks, so mid-frequency parts are sounding also really nice and engaging. And they also have this upper mid slide bump, but it's not big, to give everything more spikiness and additional splash, but also not overdone, because they doesn't sound fatiguing. So first example, it's David Bowie, John I'm Only Dancing, kind of not really hard or heavy track, but harder than traditional for David Bowie. So nice, a bit distorted guitar, and of course Bowie's vocal. And vocal is exactly why this track requires a good resolution and technicality and dynamics, and these earphones deliver it really well. And another totally unusual example, I bet you didn't expect that, but it's death, lack of comprehension, and actually it's a death metal. And surprisingly, these super expensive earphones are pretty good with not greatly recorded metal. And because of no over-dominating deep bass, drums remain really tight, and as well as bass guitar, tight, detailed, with proper punch, but at the same time not dominating in the mix like it often happens with old records. And technical mids and upper treble, and actually some aspects of high frequencies, makes guitar sounding nice, vocals usually very well, and cymbals not splashy or like sand-like, so giving nice sense of cymbals too. And as we've mentioned, high frequencies here, they are also a bit unusual, so they have noticeable deep in the area from like 4 kilohertz up to almost 10. It makes them really comfortable on the travel, but on the same at the same time it's not comfortable because they are smoothed or like something like that. Here works this AMT transformer, and that parts, despite being reduced, still sounds really present, well detailed, saturated, and nicely rendered. But then they have a bump in the upper treble area above 10 kilohertz and higher, and that gives superb layering and really good sense of saturation. And thanks to this AMT driver, treble sounds really realistic in terms of balance of attacks and decays. It's like, you know, the best sides of dynamic driver and balanced armatures mixed together. So treble here is really great. At least to my ears, of course, because it's still my subjective opinion. And the first example, it's Sting. It's probably me. Perfect track to enjoy treble here. Lot of cymbals, lot of different bells and other percussion instruments with lot of overtones, and these earphones render it really nicely. Not sharp, but with enough of clarity, airiness and details. And another track, it's famous Quintet. It's Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Bud Powell, Max Roach, and of course Charlie Mingus, and it performing live at Macy Hall. Like 5 great musicians playing together. Actually, what could we ask more? But actually we could ask more record quality, because it's here not utterly bad, but at the same time far from being perfect, especially when it comes to the treble. But thanks to the not fatiguing but still detailed treble, we getting nice amount of layering and nuances to saturate all instruments, and at the same time it doesn't sound really sharp. Postscriptum, I forgot to mention that they have really big imaginary stage. Some describe that as 3D, holographic, spacious, others refer that effect as out of your head, and that's definitely the strong part of these earphones. They deliver really impressive stage, but at the same time not overbloated or overexpanded, so everything is pretty natural and well positioned. In terms of pairing, actually, if I remember right, if I was not mistaken, their impedance is 183 ohms. Sounds like high impedance, but they have no normal sensitivity, 105 decibels, and that means that modern players deal with them really well. But of course, to get their full potential, you'll need something of high-end segment, but there are a lot of players in this segment to choose from. I won't be doing any comparisons because the main question is here is, do they worth money? And it's a tricky question because it's similar like does, I don't know, some handmade Bugatti that sold like 10 vehicles per year, does it cost their money? If your main goal is like to drive, of course it doesn't cost their money, and if you just want to listen to the music, probably you can settle with like 3-4 times lower budget and get the perfect sounding. But this thing is about delivering you some new experience, and that combination of drivers definitely does that. Their sound is nothing like I've heard, but of course price is too expensive. But it was fun to try them and listen. So thank you for staying with me until the end, and of course have a great day.